Samurai 8, Chapter 5, Departure. So this is probably the most fun I've had with a chapter from this series so far. And it's really debatable, like, what the best chapter is, because there's, like, only 5. But in my opinion, it's between the first chapter and this one, but I'm leaning more so towards this one because it's just so much fun, and it's giving me almost everything that I want in a battle manga, so, hey, I'm on board. And I also really like the way that Kishimoto and Okubo are executing things here. So it's picking up where the previous chapter left off, with Hachimaru officially deciding to devote himself to being the disciple of Daruma, as well as receiving some serious training and going on all of the other journeys that they're going to go on after this point in the story. And some people kind of had issue with that, you know, how straightforward he was, but I liked it. I personally can relate to that kind of attitude and the will and desire of Hachimaru. I mean, he's essentially been living in hell his whole entire life, and now that he has a second chance and he's just pretty much becoming a god amongst people, why would you not take this opportunity, especially when your dad's still being like an a-hole about everything? It's understandable if you're going to become distant from him, especially if he doesn't want what you want. So speaking of Hachimaru's dad, we don't see him in this chapter. There's no discussions of him talking to him or saying that he's going to leave, and people also had issues with this too, and I'm going to say I'm on board with it again. Don't even talk to your dad. Just go. Just get out of there and go on your journey. Now, this doesn't mean this is the end of his whole conversation with his dad and the conflict that they have. It's definitely going to come back. We're probably going to see his dad in the next chapter or something. They're eventually going to talk and maybe have a falling out or maybe have some kind of reconnection. So then Daruma says that he senses a holder in the vicinity, and I assume that this is just another ability that the samurais have. They can just sense holders and whatnot, so that's kind of cool, and I'm sure this will go deeper as the series goes on. I'm sure they can sense a whole lot more than just holders. But we see that Hachimaru's dad put a holder inside of the tree next to the house. And if anyone is curious, this is the holder of the Ronin samurai from the first chapter. So this is everything that he did with all of his equipment and all of his stuff. He hid it in the tree. So in this one panel where we see the holder hooked up and all of the other stuff in this room, we see on the left is the key of Ronin. Which is pretty cool because I assume this means that Ronin is still an option in this story. Like, he's just not gone. He's just not dead. He's probably going to come back, considering that his key is right here. And I don't think this is clarified, but I think that if you put a key, like a samurai key, into just an empty vessel or some kind of vessel that is capable of receiving it, then you just come back to life. Like, it's kind of like a hard drive, I suppose. That's how it works. I mean, like I said, it's not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Why else would they be showing the key here and also, you know, all of the rules revolving around it? So I assume it does work that way. Also, on the right, we see the soul that he had, or at least I assume it's the soul of the Ronin. I mean, if it's the key in his holder here, then he has the soul there too. You know, the sword thing. And then below that, we see a locker ball. So this is like a pretty valuable little treasure trove. So then Daruma notices that he put the bone hilt back in the holder, and then he says, just as I thought, that father of his is quite familiar with samurai. So that, along with all of the other hints that we've been getting in the series so far, that Hachimaru's dad is keeping secrets. He knows a lot more than what we thought. And there's also this whole big secret around Hachimaru in general. Like, he's more than what it appears to be. Also, he had originally the vampire's soul, the soul sword, inside of Hachimaru. So that's 2 instances of Hachimaru's dad being in the possession of samurai souls and just samurai stuff in general. So I think by now I'm starting to figure out what it could possibly be. Like, this isn't, you know, this isn't confirmed or anything. I just want to put it out there, just my opinion. But I think that Hachimaru's dad is some kind of thief or something. Like, somebody that takes samurai stuff and then sells it, possibly. Because I think since chapter 1 all the way up to the pigs coming into the story, there's been little subtle details dropped that there's possibly some kind of trade going on between samurai souls or just samurai stuff in general. Because when the pigs do encounter that town that Nanashi lives in, they say, oh, these guys are making big deals for big money, so there's definitely got to be samurai souls here. I'm assuming that, I mean, there's got to be some kind of trade going on, because why not? Since anyone can essentially use this stuff or disassemble it or control it, then why wouldn't you be able to just sell it to people who want it? You know what I mean? Like, if a samurai dies, in the case of Ronin in Chapter 1, there's a lot of valuable stuff that's just there. Like, so what are you going to do with it? Are you going to give it to whoever the authorities are in this world, or are you just going to take it and sell it? I'm thinking the latter here is what Hachimaru's dad has been doing all of this time, and it's very likely that's how he got the vampire soul. Like, he stole it from Takazuna, who I assume is that guy that we saw in the previous chapter with the long hair when he's like, I'm coming for you, that dude. I'm assuming that he stole his soul in order to sell it, and he just wound up sealing it inside of Hachimaru. I've also speculated before that Hachimaru's dad is possibly not his biological father, but he's kind of just his guardian, but Hachimaru isn't aware of it. I think that there's a chance that Hachimaru's dad came across Hachimaru in his travels of being this alleged samurai dealer, the samurai equipment dealer. And maybe that's why he's, I don't know, some kind of special person that was created by something for some reason. Like I said, there's so many questions and so much speculation, but it just, in my opinion, it seems like things are headed in this direction. So then Daruma just straight up steals Ronin's holder from Hachimaru's dad, although I don't think it's stealing because it really doesn't belong to either of them. But regardless, this is awesome. I love that Daruma has his own holder now. I mean, we knew that he had holders before in his original form, but in his cat form now he's got something to work with. Also, he brought the locker ball with him. Like, we see the locker ball on the back of the Ronin's holder, so that's going to come into the story later. He's going to do something with that. But also, we're getting some key information here, pun intended, because Daruma says the holder of a samurai is known as a key holder. So that's the difference here between just random holders and key holders. I thought that maybe every single holder was a key holder, like every samurai had a holder and no one else was able to have one, but that's not the case here. So it's very likely that those guys that we saw 2 chapters or 3 chapters back in Nanashi's town, the one that had that big bulky holder along with that like wolf-looking holder, it's very possible that those guys were just warriors, as they call them in this world, or bushi, whatever they call them. They were just random dudes who are powerful, but not quite samurais, but also capable of holding holders. So as they're heading to their training grounds, they discovered these 2 huge statues, and it's revealed that they are actually holders. And I love this so much. This is one of my favorite parts of this chapter, and one of my favorite new developments of information in the series overall. It is very cool that the holders look, you know, cat-like, wolf-like, dog-like, just animal-like in general, but now that we're seeing that there's holders that are just gigantic, you know, big monster-looking things, I think that's awesome, and it really opens up all of the future possibilities of what could come. We've also kind of already gotten a glimpse of how crazy the holders can get, because in Chapter 1 we saw that huge sea turtle holder spaceship thing that Daruma had, which I assume belongs to Yasha and maybe was handed down to him. Regardless, it's pretty damn cool, and like I said, showing us the future potential. So as Hachimaru, you know, runs into these guys, they go swat at him and whatnot, and then we see Daruma fall asleep, and this is the second time he fell asleep in the chapter. So I'm making 2 things of this. Either Daruma legitimately has some kind of issue with him where he has to sleep randomly because of, I don't know, his cat form, or something that has to do with the situation of why he is in his cat form. Or he's just acting like he's asleep so that Hachimaru has to fight these guys by himself and figure out things on his own, rather than Daruma just coming in and cleaning up his spilled milk every time. I think it's that, more or less. But also, we're seeing that these holders are pretty damn powerful because Hachimaru can't even cut them. Like, his sword is just bouncing off of them. So, yeah, pretty powerful. But then we get into the meat of this chapter, and I think this is just what this is wanted to show us this whole entire time. And it's just an exhibition for Daruma. It's showing us how freakishly powerful he really is. And we also have to remember that this is like a nerfed Daruma because, you know, he's in the cat form and everything. So just imagine like how strong the real Daruma is. Like what we saw in the flashback of Chapter 1, like he's probably insane. So then Daruma pulls out his soul sword and cuts one of the friggin' Cyclops holders in half. I love this sequence so much. I like how this is illustrated. Some people have, issues with Okubo's style because he doesn't really shade a lot, but I enjoyed it. I also like these holders shooting missiles out of their fingers. That's going back to what I was saying about the potential of these holders. I just think that's so cool. But then that brings us to maybe my favorite part of this chapter, and when Daruma's like, samurai aren't limited to just katanas, and he pulls out 2 pistols and starts shooting the missiles. Oh man, I love this so much. We actually kind of gotten a hint that samurais were capable of using guns and stuff, because in the flashback of Daruma, I think in the previous chapter, we see him just holding a straight up gun in his hand. So that, showed me that, oh, okay, the samurais are going to be able to use guns and stuff, but it really seems like they can use anything. Like, I'm sure we're going to see, beam cannons and rocket launchers and other crazy weapons like that in the future, because it seems like there's no real limit to what they can produce with this stuff. And also, it's just more possibilities to this series, like what I've been saying. It's not going to be bogged down by just samurais using swords and stuff. There's going to be all kinds of weapons in this series, and man, I can't praise it enough. So then Daruma goes one step further and activates the armor from the Ronin's holder and shrouds himself in the armor, so this is awesome. But he's taking it one step further, something that I don't think we saw the Ronin do in Chapter 1, and that's when he's springing the armor around him, like little satellite armors, and they're protecting him from the missiles as well. This is awesome, and it's just further showing us how powerful these friggin' samurais can become and how outrageous their abilities in junction with the holders can go. So then Daruma finishes off the last Cyclops holder with his Kongo Yasha style Eye of the Blade Wheel, and this is so cool. I could just imagine him spinning super fast like a buzzsaw, but it's just a soul blade and it's just cutting him in half. So awesome. So then the chapter ends with Hachimaru taking the bone hilt out of Heiotaro and officially making him a key holder, but also giving Hachimaru the ability to use his own soul sword, which is something that he hasn't done yet throughout the series, and he's just kind of been using regular katanas and other weapons and stuff, but he hasn't used the soul sword yet, so this is awesome. Been waiting to see what he's been capable of with this, and we're gonna see it maybe in the next chapter. Don't expect him to get his hands dirty like in an actual fight. It seems like the next chapter is just going to be full-blown training, which I'm on board for. Training is always fun as long as it's not, blown out and bloated. But other than that, I enjoyed the chapter, and I hope you did too. If you liked the video, guys, please give it a like, and let me know what you thought about this one in the comments. I also have a Patreon, gives you access to a weekly Q&A video that I do, and if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.